Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Rafia Sultana from the Department of Chemistry. Respected Principal Madam Dr. K. Padmavati, previous Principal Dr. G. Sunita Madam, and today's guest speaker Dr. Veera Mohan Rao, faculty at University of Mumbai. And dear participants, I welcome you all to the national webinar on applications of artificial intelligence in chemistry, organized by the Department of Chemistry, Government Degree College for Women, Begumpet. Let me introduce our Department of Chemistry first. Department of Chemistry is one of the oldest department of a Government Degree College, Women's Begumpet. Total, there are 6 regular faculty currently working. Our head of the department is Dr. G. Pranita, Professor of Chemistry, and other staff members are Srimati M. Prabhavati, Assistant Professor of Chemistry, Srimati K. Sarita Rani, Assistant Professor of Chemistry, Dr. Rafia Sultana, K. Satyajit Raj, and Dr. Rajni. Today's topic of national webinar that will be shared by our resource person, Dr. Veera Mohan Rao, is applications of artificial intelligence in chemistry. Artificial intelligence is making its way into every field and industry. Developing an application or a machine based on human intelligence, artificial intelligence has made it possible for computers to work like human and think like human. One of the most relevant example is Google Map. So with this introduction, now I would request our head of the department, Dr. G. Pranita Madam, to introduce our resource person. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. G. Pranita, in charge of Department of Chemistry, Government Degree College for Women, Begumpet. Once again, I welcome you all for today's webinar. It's a great privilege to me to introduce our today's resource person, Dr. Veera Mohan Rao Kakita. He has completed his MSc at Andhra University in 2014. He done his PhD at IICT on development of spectral simplification methods in solid and solution state nuclear magnetic resonance in 2014. He done his PDF at UMDAE CEBS University of Mumbai. He published a total 30 research papers in various national and international journals. He got several awards for his excellence and potentiality. He received CBMR NMRS Gold Medal in 2017, which was awarded by NMRS India. He received Young Investigator Award in ICMR-BS conference, which was held at Kyoto, Japan in 2016. He also got several fellowships. He got a CICS Travel Support Fellowship and a DST International Travel Support Fellowship to attend the ICMR BS conference in 2016, which was held at Kyoto, Japan. He also got student travel stipend and Ernst Utrecht Travel Support to attend the conference, which was held at Miami, USA in 2012. He is having several research achievements and also developed so many new techniques for small organic molecules and proteins. He has developed many techniques like PureShift NMR, Odyssey NMR spectroscopy, all-in-one NMR, HUDMOD NMR, artificial intelligence in NMR, and solid-state NMR. Like that, he has developed many techniques, and also he is an invited speaker in IIT Mumbai and IISc Bangalore. He presented his research work in various national and international conferences. Presently, he is working as a faculty hosted at a School of Chemistry, Department of Atomic Energy, Center for Excellence in Basic Sciences, Mumbai. Apart from all this, personally, I have 2 years of association with Dr. Veera Mohan Rao Kakita. I was a junior to him while doing PhD in IICT. He's a very good human being and a very hardworking person. Thank you so much, Dr. Veera Mohan Rao, for accepting our invitation in spite of your busy schedule. So with this brief introduction, once again, I welcome you for this today's program, sir. And I request you to deliver the today's lecture. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning to all of you, and thanks, Pranita, for the given introduction and discussion about my whatever research experience and all the details. Yeah, am I audible clearly?
Yes.
Yeah. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, is my presentation is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, good morning to all of you. If you see the title itself is not like a conventional chemistry title. If you see that it's like artificial intelligence and their application towards the chemistry. So first let us see what is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has been known to the computer science as well as the statistical people for almost past 60 years. But the developments over the period, it's very minimal because the availability of data and the availability, limited availability of computer resources. If you see the development over a period of time, let us assume this the x-axis is the years from 1962, okay, 2010. Let us assume these are the y-axis is the developments. If you see from 1960 to 2010, these developments are very minimal. They are only nominal developments were happened in the artificial intelligence because of the computing facilities were not that much used. Technologies had not been developed so much. But if you see from 2010 to 2020, computer technologies have been developed. You can see in almost all the computers, for example, almost all in laptops or in mobile phones, we have the graphic cards. They're extremely useful to develop the artificial intelligence technologies. For example, if you see from 2010 to 2020, there is a huge increment in the development phase of this artificial intelligence, which is because of the availability of huge data at the same time computing facilities. These are very important to develop the artificial intelligence techniques because from data only we learn. Since our childhood, we have been learning the things based on by seeing something, by reading something. It's like equivalent to the data what we have in the surroundings. In the same way, even the computers, for example, if you have enough good amounts of data and it has the learning capacity, it should have the learning capacity. Learning capacity comes only from the computing facilities. Yes, having these two things now, having the proper algorithms using mathematics all together, we are able to create a wonderful artificial intelligence technologies. It has wide applications in the fields like autonomous car driving, driving. Autonomous driving means there is no driver, it's driverless cars. For example, if we teach the computer, okay, this is the path, these are the obstacles, based on the data it learns automatically and it uses the inherently developed algorithms to automatically drives the car uses such kind of algorithms. In fact, that is the powerful robustness of this artificial intelligence. In fact, it has very huge applications in MRI scanning, MRI scans as well as the CT scans nowadays, and X-rays also. That means it has the huge applications in health sciences. For example, earlier people used to analyze X-ray, MRI, CT, all these scans. Okay, it's like a person-centric. If it's like if the doctor is having enough capability, he analyzes it properly. Otherwise, he may mispredict the results. Yes, that is the. It's like a person-centric. Sometimes humans, all that most of the times, humans also do mistakes. That is not going to happen with the artificial intelligence because if we train MRI data, CT scan data, or X-ray scan data into the computers, they will learn from the data and it automatically tells that what kind of disease is there in that particular scan. That is the robustness of this artificial intelligence. Hence, it has the applications in medical sciences as well as it has now whatever we are seeing in autonomous driving as well as we are going to discuss in the chemistry. But in the chemistry, its developments are quite minimal because we are chemistry people. So we don't in general like the computer programming or mathematics. That's why we are like isolated from all this and we are very specific to chemical reactions and try to read. But the actual thing is that using artificial intelligence, it simplifies the life of chemists also in analyzing different problems, and it's conventionally pretty difficult if you want to solve those kind of what I'm going to shoot today. Solving those kind of problems conventionally, it is very difficult if you don't use this kind of artificial. Let us see how it helps to the human being in solving several chemistry problems. Yes, for example, what is artificial intelligence? We have seen that how it has been evolved and what are these applications. Let us see what is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is nothing but if you have good amounts of data and computing facilities, computer learns from the data. It tries to mimic the human brain. Yes, that is the important thing. Computer artificially learns the intelligence. Artificially, it acts like a human. Then we can tell that it's like a artificial intelligence that computer is having. But it requires some programming. Then only it learns the things. So, yeah. Let's move ahead. This is the introduction. Simply just what is artificial intelligence and what are these applications in different fields and how it has been evolved over a period of time. Now, let us begin with one of the interesting problem. All we know that all we have been quite badly. 1 minute. Yeah. Why it's hanging? It's not moving. One minute, there is a technical problem. I am seeing some other slide in my second computer, but it's not showing.
All right, sir. All right.
Yeah. Still, you are seeing the second first slide, yes, but I am seeing the second slide in my computer. Yes, 1 minute. Let me share it once again. Yeah, are you seeing the second slide now? Yes. Yeah. Now, actual thing is that if you come to the present worst scenario, it's like a COVID. All we have been suffering almost for past 1.5 years. How bad situation is. We are not able to going anywhere because we don't know where we will get the corona and all this kind of stuff. Yes. Now, actual thing is that if you see the coronavirus, it seems to be like a circular, big bowl kind of shape. At the same time, this is the whatever I am circled here. It is the coronavirus. At the same time, it binds to the human cells. Yes, you see that whatever I am circling here, the red color bulb kind of shape, it is the spike protein. This spike protein interacts. It binds to the human cells. These are the human cells. The green one is the human cell. Whatever red kind of bulb is the spike protein. It binds to the human cell. And okay, for example, we have spike protein like this. At the same time, human cells are like this, and this is the spike. Let us assume this is the human cell, the down one. The upper one is the spike protein. The spike protein interacts with the human cells. It binds to the human cells. How it is binding? One doesn't know exactly because there is no any experimental evidences. We are assuming that this spike protein is binding this human ACE2 protein. At the same time, we are using several drugs and we are using it. For example, all we know the remdesivir. Remdesivir we are using at the same time dexamethasone. All these kind of steroids are also have been used to treat the COVID disease. Why we are using these all kinds of drugs? Because actual thing is that these two proteins, they are interacting with each other. One is the spike protein, the upper one, and the down one is like human protein. We want to interrupt the interactions. For example, if I put something there like a layer between these two, then it won't interact to each other. Then the spike, whatever the COVID protein, it will not do anything to the human bodies. If it's there on the human cell, it replicates continuously. It will have if it has the support, it replicates continuously. That's why whenever you give the remdesivir kind of drug, it interacts. Okay, it stops the interactions between the COVID spike protein and to the human cell proteins. Yeah, this is the human protein. This is the just we are separating those two things by this whatever layer we are giving. Let us assume this is the remdesivir. So where this remdesivir works, where it interacts, it has to interact only to the spike protein. It should not disturb any to the human proteins. If it disturb to the human proteins, again unnecessarily we are just this drug is going to attack only the human cells. It causes some other side effects. So all the time, whatever we give the drugs, they should interact only to the virus or bacteria what is there, what they entered in our body. Like how the similarly remdesivir just interacts to the spike proteins, and it stops the interactions between the spike protein to the human cells. But one issue we have to understand here that why we have to use the remdesivir? Why can't some other drugs? Because if you see the entire US FDA means Food Drug Association of the US United States. If you see in the whatever they in the database, almost 1 million drugs are available. Why we have to choose only the remdesivir in those cases? Why can't some other thing? Because 1 lakhs are there. How we are selecting only to the remdesivir? Nobody knows that. Yes, in those kind of things, artificial intelligence really helps because hello. Yeah, can you please mute? Yeah, why we have to choose only the remdesivir out of out of 10 lakhs of drugs? Why we have to choose only the remdesivir? It's a quite funny and important situation. Is we have to understand why we have to use only the remdesivir to keep whatever stop the interaction between the spike protein versus the human proteins, human cells. Otherwise, in those kind of cases can be easily addressed using the machine learning or whatever. Machine learning is a part of artificial intelligence. How we can use the artificial intelligence in addressing, just choose only the one kind of drug towards a particular disease. So those kind of things can be very easily used, easily addressed using the machine learning or artificial intelligence. And if you see, at the same time, not only the protein drug interactions, at the same time, we should understand how the spike protein is interacting with human protein. This is the human, let us assume as usual. This is the spike. This spike is nothing but coronavirus. Why interacts on the human? Just it interacts because there has been some possibility of hydrogen bondings between the spike protein, because it has the NH. Protein is nothing but the amino acids. They have the NHs and carbonyls. At the same time, this human protein is also have the carbonyls versus the NH. Then there is a possibility to form hydrogen bonding between the spike, and this is also a chemistry we deal with in the biology also most of the times. This is the spike protein. This is from corona. This is from the human. We have to understand first what are the interactions between the spike protein and the human protein. Then only we can break those interactions using the remdesivir. Yes. To understand those kind of things also, it is extremely important to artificial intelligence plays a great role to understand those kind of interactions between protein as well as the protein drug molecules. So we have to use the several kinds of methods are there, but we will discuss all of the things in the subsequent slides. But artificial intelligence simplifies the whole process and see how the things they help in solving the several real-time problems. Yes, the actual thing is that if you come to the drug discovery process of any drug, any specific towards whatever the viral or antibacterial diseases. For example, if you want to synthesize the proteins, if you want to study the interactions between the spike protein versus the remdesivir, we should have those molecules with us. Yes, then only we can do the experiments. That means, as per the FDA, we have to search the entire 1 million drugs with the spike protein. That means all the 1 million drugs have to be synthesized in the laboratories. It's very difficult. It's almost impossible. It will in a lifetime nobody can do those kind of. Again, it is hanging. Yeah. In a lifetime, nobody can do those kind of studies, because you see the Yeah. If you see the recombinant expression of the protein, recombinant is nothing but we express the protein is in the bacterial medium. They cannot be synthesized in the laboratories like organic molecules. We have to synthesize first COVID spike protein in the laboratory. At the same time, we have to synthesize 1 million drugs. These are the organic molecules only. Drugs are nothing but organic molecules. And check the interaction between this COVID spike protein versus the organic molecules. But if we see that synthesizing or exploring, maybe not 1 million, let us check only 1000 molecules, synthesizing 1000 molecules, you know how difficult it is. In a PhD, one can synthesize only one or two drug molecules only during their PhD. So you see how difficult it is to synthesize so many molecules. Even 100 molecule synthesis is also very difficult. So that's why even to synthesize few molecules also it takes $1 billion of money. It's $1 billion of money. It's almost very difficult because they cannot invest such a huge amount. Pharma all the time looks for the profits. That's why that is the business. This is not like a societal thing. Yes. At the same time, it takes huge amounts of time. It takes few years to synthesize the 100 molecules. But you know that COVID, how it spreads in a 3 months time, we see that almost 3 crores or 4 crores, such a huge amounts of people we are infecting with the corona. That means the drug development should be like accelerated. It should not be like very slow pace. It should be very fast pace. Then only we can at least invent something. We can identify something towards the interaction towards the COVID spike. So this is not a very feasible thing. Directly we cannot synthesize and check. It's pretty difficult process. Next one is that computer aided design. We can synthesize. We cannot synthesize directly. Okay, let us design the protein. Okay, we can design the protein in the computer as well as the small molecules in protein. Small molecules also in computer. Now let us assume this is the spike protein had been designed in the computer, and the few hundreds or few thousands of molecules of organic molecules also have been designed in the computer. Now you check the interaction between these two in computer itself. It's not artificial intelligence. This is like just computer programming. Let us assume we have. In those cases, what will happen? Whatever we have the information we get from the computer simulations, we don't know whether they are proper or not because there is no any data background to the computer. Just based on some algorithm, just like it's a calculator. Yes, computer is nothing but a calculator equivalent of it. So it actually checks the interaction between the COVID and these drug molecules. Again, it takes few months time to check maybe 100 molecules. Each molecule and protein interaction, it takes a day. That means if you want to check for 100 molecule interactions, how they are interacting with the COVID spike, it takes a 3 months time. You see that still we are at only 100 molecules information we are going to get if we use the computer designing. But if you come to whatever the machine learning or artificial intelligence, deep learning, these two are the sub part of the artificial intelligence. The whole 1 million molecule information can be checked in a day. Each one takes less than a few seconds time. If you want to check it for few thousand, it will take only few hours. If you want to check whole 1 million, it will not take more than a day. At the same time, you know that if you check entire Google or whatever the literature in publications, we will have few millions of data information for protein and small molecules. That information is being used to develop a drug here for the COVID. That's how people have been identified. Remdesivir is one of the useful interacting. It stops the interactions between the COVID spike versus the human membranes. That is the beauty of the artificial intelligence. You see that here to check one molecule information, if we synthesize it, it takes a month. It takes a year to synthesize one of the molecules and check it interactions. But if we come to the real-time conditions in the computer designing, maybe it takes a day for molecule. But if we come to the artificial intelligence thing, because having the good amounts of computing facilities at the same time availability of tons of data in Google or whatever, sources, then it simplifies the drug designing process to a grade extremely fast. That's how people have identified all these drugs. They are very useful for the COVID disease, like that only. Now, once if we identify the molecule here, later it can be synthesized. Okay, we synthesize only those particular molecules. We don't synthesize 1 million molecules because this is only the computer design. Artificial intelligence is also nothing but this not a real, but that is not the real molecule we are testing. We have to really synthesize that molecule in the laboratory and check that real interaction, how it is going to stop the COVID protein spike, efficiency, all this kind of can be checked once if you identify the molecule from here. Machine learning, we can identify which molecule is best suited for COVID spike, COVID protein. That's how the machine learning is so useful. Artificial intelligence is extremely fast and it gives the very accurate results. Once you get the accurate results, you can use those things to synthesize the molecules, and you synthesize only those particular molecules which have been shortlisted from the machine learning. That is the robustness of artificial. You see that how the big problem had been simplified using the artificial intelligence. Yes. First, let us see what machine learning does. All we know this, for example, this like normal traditional computing, traditional programming. It's like a calculator equivalent of it. If you have calculator, what you do? You give some numbers. Okay. This data is nothing but, let us assume that these are like very small numbers. 3 into 5. Yeah, 3 and 5 data, I have only the numbers. In fact, I don't have multiplication symbol also here. 3 comma 5, it is the data, let us assume. And the program is nothing but calculator. What it does the calculations. Yes, let us assume just like a multiplication. Multiplication is the program we wrote on this calculator. My calculator is having here only the multiplication, no other symbols, forget all the things. Just I wrote the program just to calculate, just to multiply the numbers. That is the program I wrote here. Okay, this is the multiplication symbol is the program, whole program. Again, it's like a few hundreds of lines, certainly. It's not very simple to write. And if I apply these two numbers and I ask these two numbers to multiply using this program, I will get an answer 15. After that, it will not remember any relation between these two numbers, input numbers and this output. Simply all the time it calculates. It knows only the calculations. After that, it forgets everything. That is the normal traditional programming. But if you come to the machine learning purposes, the program is like this. Input data is 3 and 5. Again, I'm going to give only the 3 and 5. But instead of giving the program multiplication, I give output number here. We should know output also before developing artificial intelligence or machine learning. For example, if you are showing an apple to the computer, then you have to tell this is an apple. Otherwise, that computer cannot recognize it's apple. It tells something, anything. So we have to give output also to the computer. We give the input and we give the output. Now you tell me that what is the relation between the input and output? Simply this is the multiplication of 3 and 5. That's what we are getting 15. Multiplication of 3 and 5, we get the 15. So it learns, okay, the relation between input and output in the form of the program. Now here the case is very simple. But if you come to the real time of situations to deal with complex problems, you cannot directly write the program because we don't know what program to write. Because multiplication, you know, that's what you are writing, multiplication kind of program to deal with the input data. But if you come here in the machine learning case, we give the input and output, but we don't know the program. Here is the simple scenario. I have taken the 3 and 5 and output is 15. That's what we are getting. The program is like multiplication. But if you come to real situations, it's extremely difficult to write the program in the conventional way. In those cases, it automatically learns the relation between the input data and output data in the form of a program, and this program will be used again to the traditional programming kind of thing. One more interesting thing here is that if you come to the machine learning, this machine learning, to learn this kind of relation, it needs high power computing facilities, HPC, high power computing facilities. After that, once if you have the programming, because this program is auto-generated program, but we write the relation, we also write some programming based on that. It learns the relation between the input and output in the form of the program, and we use that program in the traditional way to calculate the information for unknown molecules or whatever the drugs, their activities and everything. So this artificial intelligence, in the case of this machine learning, to understand the relation between input and output, we use high power computing. After that, once we have the programming, we can use even in fact the mobile phones to automate the things. Such a powerful thing it is. What we need in the case of artificial intelligence? Yeah. Just we should have the domain knowledge. We are the chemists, okay? We have the chemistry knowledge. At the same time, we should have the little mathematics and statistics. Without mathematics and statistics, there is no whatever artificial intelligence mostly relies on the mathematics and statistics. At the same time, we should have the little programming skills. Little in the sense, you need not be like a hardcore programmer what the computer people they do. Okay, just you need to have almost 10% to 20% of mathematics as well as the computer programming skills. Then that will suffice to your whatever artificial intelligence method developments toward the chemistry. It's so simple. Just you spend it an hour per day, then you will be an expert after 1 or 2 years in the machine learning. Then future will be yours. Let's see what exactly the artificial intelligence. Yes. Okay, just I want to explain in terms of the chemistry, what is the machine learning here. Here you are seeing different molecules here. This is 1 molecule, 2 molecules. I have 4 molecules information here. Just what I did here in the first molecule, methyl is there. So I constructed a matrix here, methyl. For the first molecule, that's what I wrote 1 here. 1 is nothing but it is presenting in that particular given considered molecule. 0 means that kind of functional group is not existing anymore in that molecule. Next one is that aromatic ring. So aromatic ring is here. So I am keeping 1 here again. Next one, NH2 is there. So I am keeping NH2 also. NH2 is there. So NH2 is also there. Next one is that CF3 is there. Trifluoromethyl. So CF3, so it is 1. So, but the actual thing is that whatever all functional groups are there in the remaining molecules also we have to consider for everything. So this 5-membered ring is there not in the first molecule. So I keep all these functional groups, they are not there. 5-membered rings with Bragg production is not, Bragg production is there not, bromine is not there in the first molecule. This kind of propyl group is not there, and OH is also not there. But CH2 is there inherently in the CH3. So I put an active point here for the CH2. At the same time for fluorine is there in the CF3. So I put it like active here. Similarly, few thousands of entries can be created for each molecule. Now, if you come to the second molecule is having Bach. So that means a methyl is there. Aromatic is not there. NH2 is not there. CF3 is not there. But this 5-membered ring with Bach is there. At the same time, bromine is there on this molecule. But in the previous molecule, bromine is not there. But in this case, bromine is there. Next one is that this 5-membered, this one is also there, but actually there is some typo mistake. Yeah, this ring is also there. At the same time, OH is not there here, even as in the case of the first molecule itself. Next one is a CH2. All these are like CH2s only. So I consider CH2 also, but fluorine is not there. Like how for all the remaining molecules, we convert the molecules into the numbers, because you know that computers directly cannot see the molecule. It can see all the time only the numbers. That's what we have to convert molecules to the numbers. That's what we did, and we constructed a matrix out of the molecule. This is only for the few molecules. But if you want to have a real-time artificial intelligence information, develop a module or develop a machine learning software, you should have almost few thousands of molecule information. And let us assume that these molecules have some properties. Assume that it's like boiling point. Okay, this is the B, that's what I wrote. This boiling point is for the first molecule, this for the second, this for the third molecule, this for the fourth molecule. That's in the similar way we can write a big, whatever the vector equivalent is for 50,000, whatever the number you have the molecules. You should have like 50, 30,000 molecules. Otherwise, you cannot develop any machine learning or artificial intelligence software. Having those many things only, this computer learns the information in a very proper way. So, we have constructed the numbers from molecules in the form of a matrix. At the same time, all the properties also we wrote them like in the form of again a vector. So, yes, you see that again all the whatever functional groups I took here, again I wrote them like a simple vector here. It's almost nothing but I think most of you people are also do the matrices linear system of equations. In the similar way, here also problem is going to be solved. Yes, we should know whether these functional groups are presenting in and what is the weight of this functional group. And now you see that we have the molecules and we have the properties. Now from the molecules and properties, yes, between the molecules and properties, it has to learn some relation. That relation is nothing but these functional groups, these substructures. That is going to be learned in the machine learning. Just we give the molecules in form of the numbers. At the same time, these properties also in the form of vector. And we write the program to learn the relation between molecules and to the properties. Then it will learn this kind of weight matrix. This weight matrix is nothing but what amount of these functional groups should be there. Like that, what we solved in the linear system of equations. Yes, one more simple example I want to give here. All we know that y equal to mx plus c. This is the linear equations. This is the linear equation, yes. And we have some x values and y values. Okay, plot them like this. And if you fit it to the y equal to mx plus c equation, and just what I am doing that I am giving x and y values to the computer, and I will ask this computer to learn the relation between these x and y. Now you see that all these points they are appearing to be like straight line only with little scattering, little distribution, and it learns that okay, all these points they are in the linear form, and it has the slope. It will calculate the slope and this y-intercept. We have been doing this all throughout our since our 6th class onwards. We have been learning this y equal to mx plus a. So, but if you come to the computer thing, just if you have the, and that means we are doing some experiment and we are noting that observation. That's what we do in several physical chemistry problems. If you plot that x and y points, for example, in your experiment, they are appearing to be like this. And if you submit these x and y values to the computer and ask to learn a relation, because machine learning does that, it learns that, okay, this is the equation, this is the relation between these two x and y data sets. After learning that information, it will have the stored information of m and c. M is nothing but slope, c is the y-intercept, yes. And for example, after developing this model, for something arbitrarily you want to check for somewhere x, what is the y value? Okay, I have x equal to something. Then what is the y? X is unknown and y unknown you want to find out. How you can find out? You know already the relation between x and y. Then you substitute this x here and you know the m and c values from this machine learning, this linear equations. You know m and c and you are asking at some x value, then automatically it calculates the y value. The similar thing is going to happen even with the machine learning. Nothing else. It stores only the relation between input and output. After having, after learning the relation between the input and output, for example, now if I want to calculate the properties for these molecules, this molecule is having aromatic ring, it has bromine, And whatever the functional groups are there, I constructed a matrix here. Now I have the W. We know the relation between X and B, that is the X multiplied W transpose equal to B. It's very simple, equivalent to the linear algebra matrices, what we do for the linear system of equations. Now we have some unknown X as well as W, and do the multiplication, then we are going to get the property for unknown molecule. This molecule is nowhere in the developed database. Developed a system of matrix. This is like, let us assume it's like a database equivalent, but nowhere this molecule is presenting. Can you see? These molecules are entirely different from this, whatever we are testing here after developing the module, machine learning module. That's how the machine learning is so useful. Here also the X, what we are using in the Y equal to mx plus C, this is the relation we got. For some unknown X, we are predicting what is the Y value without that X value is existing in the database, in your whatever experimental conditions. That's how the machine learning is so important. It automatically predicts the unknown information, even the molecules, if they are not existing in the databases. Hence, it's the future, no doubt, because even for unknowns, we can easily predict whatever the information we need. Yes. These for only the boiling points. You can do for anything. Just an example, I said the boiling points. If, for example, these molecules, they are having interactions with some particular protein or particular disease, you can use the how each molecule is having the disease specific information. Then we can calculate those things also. That's how the remdesivir has been came out into the picture of for this COVID disease. Yes. Next one is that so far we have seen that how we are representing the small molecules for the machine learning. In fact, if you want to check the protein and small molecules, we have to represent the proteins also in the form of the numbers zeros and ones, because computer understands only that. Yes. Yeah. All we know that proteins in general we represent in a sequence of alphabets. Here, each alphabet represents one amino acid. Amino acids, again, they form NHCO bonds. This is the peptide bond, and it results, if you add hundreds of amino acids, it will become the protein. One minute, there is some internet issue. Yes, each amino acid can be represented with single letter code, or some people they do with the 3-letter code and everything in different things. Yes. And here S means the serine, H means histidine, C means cysteine. Okay, this is only the small 3 residue peptide I wrote here. In fact, one can, if you come to the real proteins, they used to have few hundreds of amino acids. They are connected with each other. Yes, this A means alanine here. See that in this sequence, wherever A is there, I am keeping number 1 here. A is here, A is here. Whatever remaining all the things, they are zeros. At the same time, wherever C is there, C means cysteine. But in this protein, whatever I took this sequence, protein sequence, there is no C. That's what all the numbers are zeros. Now, if we come to the glycine is Z. Here Z is there, so I am keeping 1. Again Z is here, I am keeping 1. I am keeping Z here. Wherever Z is there, like that, wherever that particular amino acid is existing, we keep that one like 0, and the remaining all the residues, whatever amino acids, they can be attributed to zeros. Now, like how the whole amino acid sequence can be converted to zeros and ones. Again, now we can use this protein sequence for our calculations in the finding the interactions between, or finding the structure of the protein. Everything can be done using the machine learning. For example, I want to tell you here SHC. SHC means serine, histidine, and cysteine. Okay, SHC, I am encoding again the things into zeros and ones. So S is there, so I'll keep 1 here. H is not there, so 0. C is not there, so 0. Again H is not there for this. Yes. For the third C also we can write like that. Now we have a 3 by 3 matrix, but we don't use as it is the 3 by 3 here. We write first row as it is. Second row we exactly concatenate to the first row. That means 0, 1, 0. And again we write the third row. It's nothing but just we are flattening the amino acid sequence. From here to here, this is for the first row, serine. From here to here, this is for the histidine. From here to here is the cysteine. See that now if we flat these many numbers here, we will get a single row kind of thing. Then we will use that for the machine learning or artificial intelligence purposes. So we had so far seen that how we convert the molecules or proteins to suitable to the machine learning or artificial intelligence purposes. And now let us see what are the applications of these things in different ways. Yeah. The actual thing is that, especially if you see all this Google and everything, they are extremely doing good for the machine learning. Actually, Google had developed an algorithm that is called AlphaFold. AlphaFold, it is useful to find out the structures of proteins. Why finding the structures of proteins are very important? They are necessary to check whether the small molecule, whatever drug molecule is interacting to the protein or not. For example, I have a small molecule shape is like this. A curve shape I have. Then, for example, my protein structure is very random. Where it binds, it cannot bind at anywhere. It should have some lock and key kind of thing. Yes, exactly, it should fit somewhere. For example, I have the same small molecule here and my protein has this kind of cavity. Then the small molecule exactly binds to that protein. So, for example, this is the protein we have, and this whatever C loop I wrote here, this is for the small molecule. Then that means the functional properties of any molecules, even for organic molecules or to the proteins, they mostly depend on the structures. So structure should understand. We should understand what is the structure of the COVID protein before identifying the drugs suitable to the COVID, whatever the stopping the interaction of that COVID spike to the human cell proteins. So in order to understand that, first one has to solve the structure of spike protein of COVID. To do that, Google had developed an algorithm. It had been published in one of the very reputed journal, Natures. This is the best journal in the world. So first Google, what it did, amino acids, they have a database of few lakhs of proteins. Okay. In general, protein structures are like this. You see that this is like an helix. It is like some beta sheet here. Helix is nothing but it is like this. How you can tell this is an helix? Yes. You see that this angular information, it is repeating information exactly. It has some angle here. At the same time, if you take one amino acid to other amino acids, the distance follows in all kinds of ellipses in the similar way. That's what Google did a really wonderful job here. They have so many proteins. At the same time, they have all the distances and angles information. Now, once they see the relation between the protein to the distance and angles, they will have a relation in the form of an equation. And they are the weights what we had seen for y equal to mx plus c kind of thing. Then those weights are whatever the program, what it learns from the structure to the distances and angles, it will be used in the subsequent way to predict for unknown information. Here, once the method has been developed here, whatever the AI software is developed here, if you give some unknown protein sequence here, these are all amino acids, and it predicts the distances and angles, and finally it forms a structure. Here, initially they had shown for different kinds of these are like barrel structures, and it's so complex structure it is again, and there's like a very simple structure. For all of them, these are the real distance correlations. You see that this is the distance correlation predicted from artificial intelligence. How nicely comparable these two. Almost they are exactly like mirror images. Yes. Similarly, for the second protein, you see that this here also it is so nicely correlated. That means whatever they develop the artificial intelligence software, it's extremely doing really well. Similarly, for the third protein as well, you see that's how they verified, and they compared here the distances of the blue one, what they predicted here. Here you are seeing two overlapped structures. One is in the blue color and one is the green color. Blue is from artificial intelligence. The green one is the real structures from X-ray crystallography they got. Like that, you see that how nicely they are correlated. That means the artificial intelligence is extremely useful. If you want to solve these kind of big structures from the experiments, like X-ray crystallography, each protein structure takes 2-3 years. But having this kind of artificial intelligence software, it takes less than a second time to calculate each structure. That's how the artificial intelligence is so important. Next one is that if you come to the real problem is the COVID protein. Yes. This spike interacts with the human cells. First, we should know how this spike structure is. For example, you know the spike structure, then you can check whether remdesivir exactly fits somewhere in this spike protein. Then spike will not interact, because whatever interactions, active information is there from this spike, we are seizing with the remdesivir product. That's how spike structure also had been predicted from the artificial intelligence. How beautiful it is. See, it also has taken only, I think, 5 seconds of time, no, not more than that. They solved it because further enough data is available. So we developed a module. It has learned the distances and angular information versus the protein sequences. Finally, it solved the structure very rapidly at very high accuracies. Already we had seen earlier in the previous slide that the measured distances, real distances versus the distances obtained from artificial intelligence, they are so comparable. That means model is validated. Nothing to worry about the structure now. Whatever we get is the only accurate structure here. So after that, we will check the interactions of, we will see all these things. First, we got the structure of the remdesivir. Structure of the spike protein. Now, there is an interesting question, how this spike is interacting with the human cells, human proteins. One has to know that. All we are seeing, several variants are coming. Alpha variant, beta variant, gamma variant, and delta. Now people are telling delta plus, epsilon, eta, beta, zeta, so many will come in the future. So, how these variants, they are interacting with the human cells. People are telling why delta plus is so horrible. It's so contagious when compared with the all other versions. That means, for example, I have something SHC in the previous. Let us assume these are the amino acids they are existing in COVID spike protein. What is mutant versions? Mutant is nothing but you replace these amino acids with some other amino acids. That means if I write GHC, otherwise THC. T means, let us assume tyrosine, G means the glycine. You are replacing serine with glycine. That means this is one of the mutants. You are replacing here S with serine with the tyrosine. That means this is also a mutant. In the whatever here we are seeing the spike protein structure, here if I replace, for example, S is here, if I replace with glycine, if I replace serine with tyrosine, how the structures of this spike protein is changing, as well as how the spike interacts with human protein after doing the mutations, after replacing the original amino acids with some other amino acids. It is a natural process in the viruses. If it transforms from one human to the other humans, automatically sometimes what happens, based on the biological conditions, automatically these amino acids, they are going to be replicated. They are going to be replaced with some other amino acid. That's how the mutants come into the picture. So first, we got the structure of the spike so far using the machine learning. We have to understand how this spike interacts with the human protein, how the spike protein interacts with the whatever the drugs we need, antiviral drugs, how the mutants of this spike interacts with the human proteins. All this can be done, all this can be analyzed using the machine learning. Yes. Here the protein-protein interaction using the protein is nothing but this is the spike protein what we had seen in the previous slide. This is the human protein. This is the interface. You see that interface is nothing but the surface of where the spike protein is interacting with the human. This is the down one is the human. This upper one is the spike protein. And we can see how this one is interacting. For that, actually, human has to synthesize this protein and solve some extra crystallographic data. Or using the NMR spectroscopy, one can solve the structures of proteins. But problem is that it takes years to solve this kind of complex structures. But people have done the machine learning. This is through the machine learning here. They had seen that where this spike protein, this upper part is the spike and lower blue part is the human protein. They had seen that how spike protein is interacting with the human protein. But I think all you might have known that one more coronavirus had been emerged in 2002. And this one is in the 2019 COVID-2, SARS-CoV-2. So, this one is in the 2009. Actually, people really did a wonderful study here. How, because it was not a so contagious what was emerged in the 2002 when compared with the 2019's COVID. So that's what they had seen the interaction information between this is the 2002 protein had seen that the interactions are almost like minimum. You can see there is no hydrogen bonding site forming, but here more number of hydrogen forming in the 2019. That means whatever the emerged in the 2019 COVID spike protein, it is extremely fastly or rapidly interacting with the human proteins, and that's what it spreads very easily. Similarly, these are for different amino acids, almost information retains same. I don't want to explain these again and again. Now, if we come to mutants for the 2002 protein, these are the mutants for the 2002 protein. When compared with the 2019 mutants like beta, gamma, delta, delta plus, they made like this here. They found that it is very strongly interacting when compared with the 2002 protein. That's how, as well as when compared with from here to here, when compared with the normal spike to the mutated spike. So that's how they found out how the proteins are interacting, how the spike protein, when presence of some other mutants also, how it is interacting with the human protein. People had really nicely found out, and they had taken hardly a day to finish all that studies. So far, we had seen how the structures of the proteins of spike, COVID spike is there, and how the spike is interacting with the human proteins, and how the whatever mutants of the spike they are interacting with the human proteins and everything. But our interest is to find out what are all small molecules they interacting with the spike. In order to know that these are the protein sequences, already I told you that each alphabet represents one amino acids. By combining so many amino acids, one can solve the structure of that spike protein. We have the spike, already we converted zeros and ones, as well as these are all small molecules. I wrote only the whatever viral drugs here. We can write zeros and ones here for small molecules also. Very first slide is only on this. Now we have the protein, we have the small molecules, we have the interaction information, and we write a machine learning program and ask this fellow to learn the relation between protein drug versus the interaction information. Again, the whatever it will learn, it will be stored like a program, and we see how it is helped us in finding out remedies, particularly for our spike protein, COVID protein. So this is the one more slide I'm going to explain on how the small molecules are, how the drug molecules have been identified for the COVID. So we have so many COVID protein, not only COVID protein structures, because need not be COVID structure be there, need not to COVID structure be there in the database. That is the machine learning. Without unknowing things also it will predict based on the existing information. It solves the linear algebra. And we have the drug molecules. All these database have few millions of the molecules. Then we develop a module, protein versus the small molecules, and it will learn the relation. Finally, if you hear the COVID-2 is nothing but the disease emerged first in the 2019. COVID is nothing but only if COV is there, it was in 2002. Now, if I give COVID-2 structure and drug molecule structures on a developed model, it will predict what drugs are suitable for COVID. Interestingly, out of few lakhs of molecules, it has been identified only the all VAR. VAR means viral drugs. It had identified mainly all the viral drugs, and the first one had given only first place more interacting fellow was the remdesivir at that time. That is the beauty of the machine learning. Hardly it had taken few days to develop the whole model, not more than that. Otherwise, if somebody wants to synthesize all these few millions of the drugs and synthesize this protein and check the interactions experimentally, it's not going to happen, because machine learning here helped in such a way that we can sort out the whatever the molecules they are interacting towards this COVID disease. That's how machine learning is so important. It had been played a great role, and it's going to play soon also in the chemistry, especially to finding out the drug molecules towards the particular diseases. So we had so far seen the structures of the proteins, how the structures of the proteins are interacting between the human protein as well as spike protein, as well as how small molecules are, how the drug molecules are interacting, and we can find out what drug molecules are suitable for the COVID spike. So this is the thing. Now we identified some molecules, they are specific to the COVID disease. Now we need to synthesize this. Yes. Synthesis also can be done using machine learning. Yes, any doubts?
Yes, participants, if you have any doubts, you can ask.
Yeah. Let's move ahead. Yeah, thing is that retrosynthesis of drugs. Already in the previous slide, you can see that we found out the remdesivir is the first candidate is interacting with COVID disease protein. Now here the thing is that how to synthesize the remdesivir molecule. Whatever. Yeah. How to synthesize the remdesivir molecule using the machine learning. It is also so necessary, because you see the remdesivir molecule, how difficult is this? So difficult. It's not that simple. How to synthesize it? It has so many stereo centers. At the same time, it has so many functional groups. How to selectively take those into the consideration while drawing the retrosynthesis scheme? It's very difficult. Yes. Whatever you study in the textbooks, they are very little. Yes, all the time they just repeat those molecules only. If you come to the new drug molecule and write its retrosynthesis, it is so difficult. In order to do that, people had developed, especially you see that this has been developed by IBM. IBM is also a leader in computers, whatever hardware, software, and everywhere, like Google. So all these leaders in software industry, they are making big breakthroughs in the artificial intelligence. They are also see how important it is towards the chemistry. That's what people are using, especially this computer science people. They have been started using, but they recruited only the chemistry people for developing this task. Remember that chemistry people, nobody knows the software and mathematics before. Just you put your leg into that, then you will learn. Maybe it takes 2 years time to learn everything, nothing more than that. So retrosynthesis schemes also can be identified using the machine learning. Here, simply what they do, they develop the database of few lakhs of molecules, and from whatever precursor reagents they use in that, then they will develop a model, and this is the relation between the products and the reactants. Then if I give the product, automatically it will find out what are the reactants suitable for your synthesis. For example, if any expert, even the scientist, very big scientist in organic chemistry also, For them also, it takes few months time to generate a retrosynthesis scheme for any new drug molecules. But this artificial intelligence does in a few seconds of time. Remember that it will give hundreds of retrosynthesis scheme. Out of that, you can choose the best one based on your convenience, based on the reagents available in your laboratory, and synthesize that. Like how machine learning is so important. Human can draw only one retrosynthesis scheme, but actually machine learning does that. It predicts thousands or hundreds of retrosynthesis schemes using the existing databases. Now, we have hundreds of retrosynthesis schemes. We don't know which reaction is very good and which is the low cost economically suitable. In order to do that, people had again developed one more algorithm. Here, this is the hydroxychloroquine I took here. Hydroxychloroquine has these many syntheses published in the literature. That means here these are only few examples I took. But if you see, these are all only the between the years, in the recent years, in the past 10 years or 20 years. But if you go the entire literature, few thousands of reactions are available to synthesize the hydroxychloroquine. Then how to find out which reaction is feasible, which gives the better yields, which is the low cost economically feasible reaction. In order to do that, again people have developed a machine learning algorithm. Here they give the reactants price and the products. Then it will find out the low price reaction with better suitable conditions with best reaction yields. So this is an example of the hydroxychloroquine synthesis. Here it has been predicted two synthetic schemes. One is the above one. Here you see that it requires only the $11 per gram reagent, but in the lowest down reaction it requires $26 per gram. And that's what this reaction is more flexible and is more economically feasible. At the same time, all these reagents are very extremely cheaper when compared with the things they had given in. At the same time, it predicts all the reagents what it needs. You need not worry about. Just you give the product you want, then it will predict. It will calculate all the retrosynthesis scheme, and it will find out what are all reagents are required for this, and which reagent is suitable based on the prices. It will identify those things. Now, one more question here it is missing, that is the what kind of named reaction it is, whether it is oxidation, reduction, bromination, several. All these things also can be identified. Before going to that, for remdesivir also people had identified the best conditions with low cost prices. Hardly it will not be more than like $10. It will be like $10 per gram remdesivir one can synthesize using the machine learning algorithms. It will identify. Just you give the remdesivir, it does the retrosynthesis scheme. At the same time, it will identify all the reagents. It will identify all the schemes at the suitable low cost reagents. That's how the life had been simply changed a lot. Nothing to worry. Yeah, humankinds are also very requirement in developing all these methods. At the same time, one human have to finally verify these reagents, whether they are really suitable or not also, because sometimes artificial intelligence, if there is no enough data, it does mistakes. So we are the chemists, we don't lose anything, but have grip on the advanced topics is certainly useful and they are necessary in the future. So far we had seen different things. Finding out retrosynthesis scheme, finding the forward reactions, finding the low cost reagents, and people have not stopped up to that. People have developed some other thing to find out what is the reaction mechanism is happening. And if I have only the reagents, it will automatically predict the forward reactions. This is like synthesis. So far we had seen for the retrosynthesis. Now it's useful again for the synthetic schemes also, but at the same time it will find out where all the reagents they are binding to each other. That gives the reaction mechanism. Here people they use reagents, reactants, products as well as the mechanism, and then it will learn the relation between all among, and whenever you give some new reagents, then it will find out what is the product is going to get, at the same time the reaction mechanism. But problem so far we haven't identified whether it is oxidation, reduction, named reactions, all these kinds of things. One thing I can ask you, how many named reactions we can remember ourselves? maybe 20, 30 named reactions, because it's like by hearting. We cannot identify more than that. In those kind of cases, if you have developed a module to identify the named reactions, a few lakhs of from a few lakhs of reactions with the named reactions, it will identify all the kinds of named reactions what they are happening using the machine learning. Here, such algorithm had again been developed only by the IBM. They gave the reagents, products, and the name of the reactions, and they find out what is the reaction, what is happening here. And you can see here is the hack reaction, Wessel-Mayer-Hacks reaction. It identified if we give the reagents and the product. At the same time, Ido-Suzuki coupling, if we give the reagents and the product, at the same time it identifies all the reagents what they need for the reaction. At the same time, it has the capacity in identifying heterocycle formation, CC bonds, acylation, heteroatom alkylation, oxidations, reductions, deproduction, functional group interconversions, and many more. These are only few examples they gave here. That's how it completely, a computer completely will going to change the humans from the synthesis soon, certainly. So far, we have seen several things that retrosynthesis scheme, whatever the reaction mechanism, named reactions, the prices, economically possible reagents, everything. But having all those things, why can't we automatically synthesize the molecules? Why humans have to add the reagents too? Because so far, all the things what we had seen, they are all completely automated things. Having these many automated things, why can't we develop a hardware? Why can't we develop a technology? For this, IBM did really a great job, because all the organic synthesis whatever schemes, artificial intelligence schemes have been developed by IBM. They did simply you give the molecule name for the computer. Okay, I'm giving remdesivir here. Just I will enter the remdesivir structure. What it does, it back calculates the retrosynthesis. After that, it will find out the reagents. That means it is going to write the synthesis scheme. It will identify the best low-cost reagents and the reaction conditions. And finally, you see that all these are different chemicals they are injecting in the bottles, and it will set up the reaction automatically where the human needs. But problem here is that it is going to just synthesize the molecules. After that, one has to purify the molecules. One has to identify whether the molecule is synthesized from these automatical schemes. It's like autonomous, in this autonomous synthesis is correct or not. Those things also to find out. To finding out those things also, again, several people they have been working on. This was the paper published in the Science. This is also one of the best research papers. They named it as like computer. Computer is nothing but, it's like computer plus chemistry. They added together, then they made it like computer. Synthesis of drug molecules. Again, they did only mostly for the antiviral drugs here. Because of COVID made so many changes in this world. We have to adapt those things. So simply we will give some whatever product I want here, drug I want, I will give to this computer. Then what it does, it will find out the reagent, back calculate the retrosynthesis scheme. At the same time, it will set up the reagents. It will identify the reagents. It will identify the named reactions, and it will set up the reaction. This is the workup. It will set up the reaction. After that, automatically it will isolate the product what we need, because all these molecules they have some polarities. You know, all you people from organic chemistry, you do the columns and everything to isolate your required molecules. It will does this kind of isolation also. After that, it will purify at a great extent with high purities. One thing here missing is that the whatever the product is formed from this from this computer is not the real product or not. One doesn't know exactly. In order to do that, one more scheme had been published where they had used mass spectroscopy, IR and NMR spectroscopies in a hood of reactions. Here also one will give you the remdesivir kind of molecule for the synthesis. Then you see that all these are like the reagents. It will add the reagents in a board. conical, whatever RB plus, RB plus. Once the things are synthesized, it will purify everything and it will go for the synthesis, or it will go for the analysis process. After that, if you see that these are the NMR spectra, in this case, whatever the reagents they had given, exactly matching with the predicted NMR spectra. Predicted is nothing but red color here. Experimental spectrum is blue color. If they are matching, there is no reaction happening. But in this case, you see that they are different each other. That means the reaction is happened. You can see that functional groups are changed. That's what there is a huge shift in the chemical shift values. That's how one can identify. It is the complete setup. It has automated reaction, whatever it predicts the reaction paths. At the same time, it will isolate the molecules, it will purify the molecules, at the same time it will analyze the molecules also. That is the important thing is happened because of only the artificial intelligence. You see that where human is required here in future, just humans, just we need to put the reagents in those, whatever the reagents, whatever reagent bottles, that is only the need. For that we need not to do MSCs. Yes. So just try to adopt the new technologies. That is very important. Next thing is that in general, pharmaceutical people, there is a big question. If they synthesize the remdesivir, do they get only the remdesivir or they get some other whatever unknown impurities? Impurities also they form often. Okay, some like unknown impurity is formed. If you come to the analysis stage, I am talking about this. Actually, these unknown impurity structure also to be identified. Otherwise, we don't know this unknown impurity how much harmful when it is coexisting with this remdesivir molecule. In order to do that, one should identify the unknown structure from unknown whatever the impurity. That is so important. In order to do that, if mass spectra has been used here, just they give the mass spectra and molecule spectra. Molecule structure means if for few lakhs of molecules, if one is developed a machine learning algorithm, for unknown mass spectrum, it will predict the molecule structure. How simple it is. Why we have to worry in the future? It has such a wonderful capacity. It will search in the database. Otherwise, if it is not there in the database, it automatically predicts the structure of unknown mass spectrum. Because whatever we learn from the textbook, they will have only the few examples. But in the real case, one doesn't know what is the impurity is going to form with remdesivir. Again, depends on what all the kinds of reagents you are using. Yes. So here also artificial intelligence machine learning plays a significant role in identifying the unknown structures from unknown impurities. In the similar way, NMR also people had used, but actually its applications are different. Actually, NMR is in general gives sometimes a very noise spectrum if we have impurities. So noise spectrum. At the same time, if we do some kind of sparse samplings, we need to reconstruct the spectra. That is also very difficult. At the same time, automatic prediction of the chemical shift. In general, we by heart the chemical shift MSC levels, but nothing to worry. This fellow will tell all the chemical shift what they are, what they belong to if you give the structure and NMR spectrum. At the same time, this peak picking is also so important if you want to automate the artificial intelligence things. It does everything, even it has not so far developed to find out the unknown structure from NMR spectroscopy. We are working on those problems now. So far, we had seen various applications of artificial intelligence and yes. So far we had seen various applications of artificial intelligence, and the actual thing is that we are planning to start a startup soon. It's mostly because the chemistry applications in artificial intelligence. Actually, we are planning to help really the farmers first, after that pharma industries and researchers. We are developing so many artificial intelligence methods. So how this, we planned it like a CAMA soon. We will launch, we will start it not in a few months time. Here great thing is that all our family members are co-founders here, because all we are from only the chemistry backgrounds. We have 3 chemistry PhD from our family. So not only 3 female, along with that, one more family member is there. She also helps a lot. She did BSc, still she is expert in helping in the chemistry problems. All we will be the members in this. We will be the co-founders. We are planning to start a company soon. We will help to the farmers, pharma, as well as the research industries using the different artificial intelligence applications. Yes, actually, my first goal is that, for example, if you see different lasers, they are so useful. Not only lasers useful to focus on somebody. It has so many applications in the real science. Some people, they just use the laser to irritate others. It's not the laser application anymore. It has so many real applications. We are planning to develop some characterizing the photophysical properties of the molecules. Nothing but if I have some molecules, at what wavelength it absorbs the energies. Especially it will have applications in solar cells, solar energy conversions, as well as it will have applications in lasers and many more applications, material applications. And OLED TVs, all these things, they use only the OLED nothing but organic light emitting diodes. They are only the organic molecules. Do remember how extremely useful the organic molecules they are in material science. All I think, because you might have learned these kind of things. If a molecule is absorbing violet wavelength, it will emits the green complementary colors. Like that, if I want diodes of these emissions of these colors, we should identify at what wavelengths those molecules absorbing the energies. In order to do that, we developed a database with the molecules and properties, and we found out the relation between those molecules and for any unknown molecule, because we don't know what will the emission wavelength for the given organic molecule. One doesn't know. One has to synthesize that in the laboratory first and check that in the photophysics lab. That is so difficult. How many molecules they can synthesize to get the green color, for example? They have to synthesize thousands of molecules, then only they will get few green color emitting organic molecules. It is not the real thing. So we before synthesizing the molecules, for unknown molecule itself, we can find out the properties of those molecules, at what wavelength it is absorbing, how much intensity it is absorbing. That Beers-Lambert's law? Yes, it tells that how much intensity of the light is absorbing by that molecule in particular given solvent. We are doing those all kinds of stuff here. Especially it's useful for the researchers. Many of the the synthesis people who they develop the organic light emitting diodes or organic material science purposes, organic molecules towards the material science. In general, they synthesize the molecules and they check their properties. But before going to synthesis, let us predict whatever they need the structures. For those structures, we predict them. For that, actual thing is that we have to have so many molecules and their photophysics properties, and develop a deep learning or machine learning module and find out the relation between how the molecule functional groups they are affecting on the properties of those molecules. Then it's done. We had so far 30,000 molecules data for these photophysical properties. In example here, we have 3 molecules. Almost the structures of these 3 molecules are same here. And we developed a artificial intelligence module, and we predicted what are all properties of these molecules based on the requirement. For example, these are all predicted colors, emitting colors for these molecules. Okay, this molecule emits the blue, this molecule emits the green, this molecule emits the red, bluish green. You see that it has only little changes only in this region. See, still they are so efficient. Only little change in the structure completely alters the properties. For example, if I synthesize this molecule to have the blue light, last molecules, do we get the blue molecule? No way. Even nobody can predict what it is going to give the color at the end. Before synthesizing, if they synthesize this molecule and they want the blue color, they will not get. Just they have to buy some blue color in the market and they have to put that color in that whatever solvent. It's not really useful. So if you want to predict the properties, just you go with this and it will give you the properties and then only you can synthesize this molecule. That is the powerfulness of artificial intelligence. Next application we are seriously working on, farmers related. All we know the turmeric. It's extremely useful. It has so many important applications like an antiviral, antibiotic, and everywhere it is there. Important constituents in the important molecules present, molecule presents in this whatever curcumin. Turmeric is the curcumin. This molecule name is the curcumin. So in general, what farmers they do, they just really sadly true is that they cultivate the turmeric. After that, if they want to sell, only brokers play a great role here. In general, they cheat that okay, your turmeric is not good, because actual thing is that based on this curcumin concentration presence in this molecule, these prices of this is the price. Let us think. This is the curcumin concentration. Prices will be exponentially increased. But in general, they say that okay, it's not having good curcumin, it is not a good turmeric you are cultivating, then we give little prices. That's how they cheat. They cheat the farmers, the brokers over. They're in between the final the user as well as from the farmer. So in those cases, we planning to develop. We don't want to give any details here. We have a secret reagent here. That reagent, what it does based on the curcumin concentration, it will generate different colors. Based on these colors, we are developing an artificial intelligence model. And actually, all these things, they require the chemistry laboratory. But if you come to the real farmers, they don't have the laboratories. Nothing to worry. We are not worrying about the laboratories at the farmer's ends. We use these colors and we develop a database. After that, we will develop an app. Just farmer has to install the app in their mobiles, and just they have to take. But we will sell this. We will give the secret reagent to the farmers. The secret solvent to the farmers, and they synthesize this whatever this solvent. They dissolve their curcumin, whatever the turmeric in the secret reagent. Finally, they will take photo of this and they will submit to the artificial intelligence. They need not to have anything. Just they have to put the solvent. That's enough. Automatically, it dissolves all the curcumin in that powder, turmeric powder. And finally, they have to take the color of that vial with the mobiles, and automatically it will be submitted to the app. Finally, they will get how much curcumin is there and how expensive is your curcumin, whatever turmeric. Then future, we can apply this one to many more applications like spices and everywhere. Food adulteration is also a big problem in India. Yes, almost 30% of foods what we consume, they are adulterated. Adulterated food is extremely dangerous. Most of the adulterated food, they finally cause cancers. Again, it's a big business to the doctors from doctor end. So we are planning to develop many more applications for the farmers as well as the food materials. We use several chemistry techniques. And finally, the people, they need not to have any chemistry from their end. Just we will do the chemistry and we will develop the apps, but they will use from their end. It's like normal photo or something in other means. We are going to plan to do all these things. Yes, if you come to the pharma industry, yes, it's so important. All we know that if a person is suffering from diabetes, what they have to take? They have to take the insulin. As well as now, you might have had some news recently that antibodies, monoclonal antibodies, they are giving for the COVID. Yes, they are extremely useful to treat the COVID, especially in Hyderabad. Also in several hospitals, Asian, Gasio, and Trustic something. That hospital is giving this kind of antibodies. It has been imported from Switzerland. Actually, during the election, US election, Trump had used all these kind of things. It is like very wonderful thing. But problem here is that if you come to the pharma industry, in order to develop these kind of molecules, in general, pharma industry takes around more than 10 years time. They have to find out exactly what is the structure of this insulin and how stable it is And again, it has to go several clinical and non-clinical phases. First, they have to formulate the drug, dissolve this insulin in some solvent, and put some other reagents in that. But problem is that once they synthesize, it will go all these things, and finally it will get accepted. But if somebody wants to synthesize the same insulin from other company, then they need not to go for all these clinical trials and everything. At a little cost, in a 5 to 10 years time again, they can synthesize this insulin molecule. But problem is that whatever they synthesize, these people in the second step, like a generic drug, we don't know how accurately comparable with the original insulin. So we call these drugs are the biosimilars. Biosimilars means they are not synthesized in the laboratories. They are expressed from the biological mediums. And as for the FDA, NMR is a wonderful tool, because if you check the NMR of the synthetic insulin, it is like a biosimilar insulin with respect to the original innovator insulin. Those spectra should be comparable, because spectral similarities are proportional to the functional similarities and structural similarities. In order to do that, before that, I want to show some other molecules. This is the generic small molecule drug, let us assume. It will take 2 years time to develop generic small drug molecule. But problem is that, see this small molecule, you can heat this at any temperature. You can put any concentration of solvent in this. But nothing will happen to this small molecule case. But you see that how much big molecules, you see that how much big fragment is hanging in the sky here. If I knock something here, if I disturb somewhere here, then what will happen? This entire structure will be collapsed. That's how whatever drugs they are expressed in the protein medium, they are so sensitive to the experimental condition, external parameters like pH, temperatures, reagents, and everything. Small molecules are not that so sensitive. Proteins are so sensitive, because you see that a big ball kind of thing, these two balls are hanging in the sky. If any mistakes are happened in between, completely the structure will collapse. Then it will not be like a drug anymore. It will be like a poison you are going to take. So if any structural changes are happening, we can see those changes in the NMR spectrum. All those kind of things can again address using the machine learning. For that, actually, we developed a software here. It uses completely statistics. Here you see that this is like a innovator real drug, for example. This is like a drug synthesized by somebody. These two are the NMR spectra. How much comparability is there? 99.7 comparable from the software what we developed here. Some existing softwares are there, but they have so many difficulty, limitations, and everything. Now we are planning to develop this kind of thing. You see that here, this is also a reference protein, let us say, reference drug, biological molecule. And this is the drug synthesized by somebody. You see that there is a huge changes in the structure, whatever NMR spectrum. Several points they are missing here, yes. And there is only 32% similarity is there with respect to the original drug kind of thing. Then again, it's like a harmful thing to take this kind of drug. So that's how the artificial intelligence again useful in doing the several things. So if you come to the conclusions, I'm done with my talk. If you come to the conclusions, first we had seen the interaction of artificial intelligence, and we used it predicting the structures of COVID-related proteins in little amounts of time. At the same time, we had seen the protein-protein interactions between spike protein versus human cell protein. At the same time, we had seen how the drug-target interaction is the drug-protein interactions. How the antiviral drugs like remdesivir, they are interacting with spike protein and all other stuff. At the same time, we had seen the drug synthesis using artificial intelligence like retrosynthesis, forward synthesis, economically feasible pathways. At the same time, we found out all the reagents and the named reactions and what kind of reactions are happening and everything from that. One more thing is that after that, the analysis of synthetic molecules, and if any unknown impurities are there, we used mass spectroscopy to find out all these kind of things. And we developed a module to find out the structural similarities of the synthetic and biosimilar drugs using the artificial intelligence. At the same time, we have photophysical properties. We found out how much wavelength it absorbs and what kind of color it emits and everything. Okay, thanks a lot for your kind attention and the given opportunity. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye bye. Yeah, I'm done. If you have any questions, please address. Yeah, please ask me. Then I can address you the answers.
Yes, participants, if you have any doubts, please ask. Sir, can I ask something? Sir, did you develop these algorithms for protein predictions?
No. For protein predictions, all they are there. So why to develop again? We started developing the things from these photophysical properties, as well as we are predicting how much concentrations of curcumin is there in the whatever these things, and we developed this protein structure similarity identification algorithms using the machine learning. Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
So if you don't have any questions, I request Sarita madam to propose vote of thanks.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes,
Am I
ma'am.
audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Government Degree College for Women, Begumpet, Department of Chemistry, I, Sarita Rani, Assistant Professor of Chemistry, take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to those who have contributed to this national webinar on applications of artificial intelligence in chemistry, which is organized by Chemistry Department. At the outset, I thank our resource person, Dr. K. Veeramohan Rao from University of Mumbai, for accepting our invitation and devoting his precious time. Sir has given a wonderful explanation on the applications of artificial intelligence, such as how the spike proteins of coronavirus interacts with the protein of human body, and how nowadays the drug molecules, the synthesis of various drug molecules can be synthesized by using machine learning, and how to study the mechanism, the reaction mechanisms in all this. Sir has given a very detailed explanation on how to write a machine program, that is machine learning program, and how to identify the sequence of the proteins that can be useful for us to develop a drug. Sir, we are really enlightened with your knowledge and your excellent presentation, sir. Thank you very much. I would also like to thank our principal, Dr. Padmavati madam, and our former principal, Dr. G. Sunita ma'am, for their enthusiastic support and motivation. I would also like to thank our head of the department, Dr. K. Pranitha ma'am, for organizing such a wonderful webinar. I thank Dr. Rafia ma'am for her technical support and coordination throughout the webinar. Then my heartfelt thanks to other faculty of our department, Rajni ma'am, Prabhavati madam, Satyajit sir, and the other guest faculty, Harini and Yashwant. Finally, my heartfelt gratitude to the students and faculty from other institutes and colleges for their active participation and making this program a success. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sarita madam. Pranitha madam.
Kind up, madam. Kind up. Thank you, Veeramohan.
Okay. Thank you a lot. Bye bye.
Rafia madam, wind up the session.
I'll stop the recording first, then I'll wind up. Okay, ma'am.
Once again, thank you all the participants for your active participation, and also for your patience listening out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am.